It's finally Halloween. Originally, I didn't have any plans to upload around October, but there was just absolutely no way I was going to ignore uploading a video on Halloween, especially given the fact that this is many people's, including myself's, favorite holidays. I pondered upon the idea what kind of video I could upload for this special occasion. Should I talk about Michael Jackson's Thriller, or what about Will Smith's bizarre Nightmare on Elm Street rap song? But then I remembered listening to an album that I first experienced all the way back during the summer of this year. And that album in particular was Ethel Cain's Preacher's Daughter. Released in 2022, this is a concept album, and for those who don't know what a concept album is, it's essentially a narrative piece condensed within a series of songs. Every single track in this album is one single story, and let me tell you, it is quite shocking, and I actually do want to give a bit of an advisory for those going into this video. This album contains a ton of heavy subject matter, stuff in which I really can't explain without having YouTube just demonetize my channel. So to give you an idea of what Preacher's Daughter contains, here's a list of content that basically sums up what this album is about. So yeah, you've been warned. Before we even talk about the album, let's talk about the artist herself, Hayden Adedonia, also known by her stage name, Ethel Cain. Ethel Cain isn't just the stage name for the artist, but also the character featured within the Preacher's Daughter story. The story of Preacher's Daughter in question chronicles the life of Ethel Cain, as we unveil a very dark and disturbing epic that utterly made me shiver to my very core. I am not exaggerating when I say this. This album is not for the faint of heart, and is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it in the first place, especially for a Halloween video. Sure, many people who have listened to the album might not consider it to be something that pertains to this specific holiday, but I wanted to cover it because it is unlike any other album that I've ever heard, but it falls in line with the genre of horror. Listening to Preacher's Daughter was the equivalent of watching an Ari Aster film. It might not have the right feeling of a traditional horror story, but it definitely captures a sense of macabre and unnerving feeling that not a lot of genres tend to capture. So with that being said, let's review Preacher's Daughter. One thing I will say, the album starts off really well. The first track, titled Family Tree Intro, is an amazing opener to this album. It has a cinematic feeling to it, and it throws you into the world of Preacher's Daughter so naturally. And of course, this is just the intro version to Family Tree, as we'll later hear another rendition of this song as we go along. The next three tracks within this album are what I would consider to be the more tamer entries within Preacher's Daughter, with American Teenager taking the cake as probably the only positive song in the entire story. The song captures the innocence and youthfulness of Ethel Cain's character, and in a way in which it embraces the freedom of self-identity, which is probably one of the reasons why Billboard consider one of the best LGBTQIA anthems of 2024. The next song after American Teenager is House in Nebraska, which tells the story of Ethel Cain and her boyfriend at the time, Willoughby Tucker. Willoughby Tucker is an important character within the Preacher's Daughter mythology because we really don't know what happened between those two. Did they break up? Did Willoughby Tucker move out? Did he die? We may never know. But there is a prequel album titled Willoughby Tucker, I'll Always Love You that was released this very year. I have yet to listen to the album, but once I get around to listening to it, maybe I'll cover it in a future video. It's a very beautiful song, capturing the essence of both young and unrequited love. It's one of the reasons why it's considered a fan favorite amongst Ethel Cain fans. Me personally, it's not my favorite, but without a doubt, it's a good song nevertheless. Western Nights is what I believe closes the first act of the Preacher's Daughter narrative. It's a more somber and melancholic track which explores Ethel Cain's second romantic relationship in the form of a man named Logan. Unlike her previous lover Willoughby, Logan tends to be more violent, but Ethel sees a side of him that she still finds worth. Though vaguely explained, it's throughout the lore of Preacher's Daughter that we find out that Logan was actually killed in a police shootout. And once again, Ethel is all alone. So we're 5 minutes into the review, and you're probably asking yourself, where the hell are the horror elements? Cut to the next rendition of Family Tree. I feel like this version of Family Tree diverges from the intro version simply because of the fact that in Family Tree intro, we more or less get a vague explanation of the Cain family. The way Ethel describes her family in a very vague sense, as if there's more to her family than meets the eye, and a much bigger and even potentially darker secret than many of us expect it to be. Also, throughout the entirety of Preacher's Daughter, you can hear vague sounds of flies swarming around, indicating that, yes, dead people are present within this story. I already explained that Ethel Cain's second love interest, Logan, was killed in a police shootout, but there's one more character that died during Ethel Cain's life, and that is her father. And unfortunately, we learn more about her father through the song Hard Times. Whew, okay, I gotta say, this song is probably one of the most heartbreaking songs I have ever listened to so far. Ethel explains the life that she had with her father and what her father did to her during her childhood, and let me tell you, it's not sunshine and rainbows, and honestly, I don't even want to describe what Ethel's father did to her, but the way I'm wording things, you probably already know what's going on. One thing that I will say is that even though Ethel is just a character portrayed by Hayden, the way that Hayden described the horror and the trauma that many people experience in such a natural and organic way makes this song feel so real that it's kind of scary to even think about the fact that something like this happens to people on a daily, even probably while I'm recording this review. This easily goes down as one of my personal favorite songs from Preacher's Daughter. I honestly can't express how fucked up I felt the first time I heard this song. Keep in mind, I went into this album blind without any knowledge of what the story of Preacher's Daughter was about. My only knowledge was the fact that it was a concept album, and I just had to pick up the pieces of what the story was about, not realizing that all of this stuff was building up to something far more sinister than I expected. And it only gets disturbing from here on out. I also wanted to make some clarifications before we move on to the next song, that in terms of Ethel Cain's father's status, it's explained that he died during a house fire prior to the events of the main Preacher's Daughter timeline. Now, while he died a monster, to others, he died a hero. You gotta remember that Ethel Cain's father used to be a deacon before his death, so he had a huge influence within his Christian community. And beneath that supposedly holy figure, said figure was actually a monster hiding amongst men. The next song in the album is Thoroughfare. Now, while this track feels a little similar to the songs that were featured in Act 1, it is far from positive. One thing to note about Preacher's Daughter is that throughout the story, Ethel Cain is an unreliable narrator. A lot of the stuff that happens throughout the story is pretty vague, although you get an idea of what's really going on, and Thoroughfare is no exception. In Thoroughfare, Ethel Cain forms yet another romantic relationship in the form of Isaiah Abram, who the two end up running away together to California. And again, it's not what you think it is. Those two didn't just run away together. Ethel was kidnapped by Isaiah and taken to California, where she'll eventually meet her worst fate yet. Thoroughfare is an example of what happens when you turn a beautiful lie into an ugly truth. And now we transition to Gibson Girl. And yeah, it is at this point throughout the entirety of this story where things get truly dark. In Gibson Girl, Ethel is being prostituted by Isaiah and fed an immense amount of drugs to the point where she can barely remember anything, especially being tossed around by various strangers that Isaiah is reluctantly taking money from. Gibson Girl paints us a perfect picture of the sexualization of women and the depravity of their innocence, being seen as nothing more than mere objects to these filthy pigs that roam the streets. And it makes it even tragic when you realize that Isaiah himself is not only the third boyfriend to Ethel, but her last. Enter Talamea. My god, this track is fucking haunting. It feels like you're inside the inner machinations of hell itself. The eerie whispers and the overall dark ambience really solidifies this album as a true horror tragedy. And Ethel's blood-curdling scream towards the end of the song will always send shivers down my spine. And up next, we have two instrumental songs, August Underground and Televangelism. These two songs are meant to complement one another and to showcase the life and death of Ethel Cain. And yes, Ethel Cain dies in this story. August Underground showcases what ended up happening to Ethel Cain as she is brutally murdered by Isaiah. The song title itself is a reference to the movie of the same name that was released in the early 2000s, in which the film depicts the lives of two serial killers going about killing various individuals and causing chaos amongst their community. And as someone who has seen this film, unfortunately, I can tell you this. The brutality of what happens in the movie, especially in the beginning of that film, gave me an idea of how brutal Ethel Cain's death really was. As for Televangelist, this is a song that showcases Ethel ascending to the heavens, finding peace, no longer have to undergo any further trauma. This is where we get to the final two tracks on this album, Sun-Bleached Flies and Strangers. Sun-Bleached Flies is what many would consider to be left to interpretation, as we don't get a really good explanation as to what this song is truly about, other than the fact that this is a post-life without Ethel Cain. The flies themselves, within the title's namesake, symbolize the decomposing body of Ethel Cain. And if you can recall, throughout the entirety of this album, you can hear faint sounds of flies swarming about. How I interpretate this, Ethel herself is speaking to us from the grave. Her presence come in the form of these swarm of flies. Think of it like a seance, communicating with the dead as the dead tell you their story. And at last, we come to Strangers, the final track to Preacher's Daughter. In this song, we are not only told that Ethel Cain's body was kept by Isaiah, but Isaiah ends up cannibalizing her body. As Ethel Cain speaks from the dead, she wishes that Isaiah would choke on her body, hoping that pieces of her will poison him from the inside. She also makes some final remarks to her surviving family, especially towards her mother, who hopes that she is safe, but knowingly understand that her daughter is no longer around. A little headcanon that I have, especially towards Ethel Cain fans, I'm pretty sure Isaiah died, given the fact that he was literally eating the rotten corpse of Ethel. And if that was her way of getting back towards her murderer, I'll subscribe to it. And that was Ethel Cain's Preacher's Daughter. A horrific and tragic tale of an American girl caught in the web of a series of trauma, unrequited love, and ugliness that mankind has to offer. Now, one thing I will say, in terms of pros and cons, in the pro section, I really love the way it tells its story. It captures a perfect atmosphere that goes in line with the story's narrative. The production on this project is absolutely amazing, and Hayden is an amazing vocalist. The album really reels you into the story, and when you are finally released upon listening to the album, you just want more, and thankfully, Hayden has made it clear that she wanted to explore more of the Preacher's Daughter universe. Preacher's Daughter is the first entry in this trilogy of albums, with the next entries focusing on Ethel's mother and grandmother, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what this world has to offer. As for its cons, it's a little minor, but this is just me and it doesn't detriment the entirety of the album experience. Certain tracks in this album are pretty lengthy, and it's probably one of the reasons why I wasn't much of a fan of House in Nebraska. It's not a bad song or anything. Hell, coming back to those comments about lengthy songs, some of my favorite songs include the Eagles' Hotel California and Metallica's One, and they're pretty lengthy in their own right. Maybe if I re-listen to those lengthy songs off of Preacher's Daughter over and over again, maybe I'll get used to it. It will definitely take some time for me to change my mind. but it doesn't change the fact that I absolutely love this album, and I highly recommend you guys go check it out for yourselves. Anyways, that is the end of my review. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new to this channel. Also, make sure you hit that notification bell for updates on new content. Happy Halloween, everybody, and this has been Spectro Heliotic.